entitle your notes Plural Noun Review. And then today's date, October 21st, 2020. So the title of these notes is Plural Noun Review. And then you should have today's date. So all we're doing is we're writing plural noun rules. And some of them we will use examples. So draw a bullet point, a little dot on the pink line. Most plural nouns begin with what? End with what? Most plural nouns end with what? Carla?
Agree.
Kingston? An S. Carla, please listen to my questions. Most plural nouns end with the letter S. Go to the next line, go over a little bit and draw a dash. Give me an example of a word that follows no other rules other than it ends with S. I'll pick sticks for this. So everybody's going to go back in. Smith.
Girls.
Girl becomes girls. Okay, at this point you should not need to look back. If you need to, go ahead, but you should be able to do this without having to look back. I am not saying that you are not allowed to look back. I'm just saying that at this point you should be able to do this without looking back. Victoria, what's your question?
Is that an arrow?
Yes. The arrow means we're changing it to make it plural. So singular is girl, plural is girls. If you make it plural, it becomes girls. Nouns that end with S, Z, X, SH, or CH. What do we do to make nouns that end with S, Z, X, SH, or CH? What do we do to make them plural? What do we add to the end to make them plural? Victoria. So nouns that end with S, Z, X, SH, or CS, add ES. Give me an example of a word where we have to add ES. Colin.
Brush.
Brush. The singular noun brush becomes
Brushes.
brushes. Okay. Nouns that end with a consonant and the letter Y. What do you do? If it ends with a consonant and then the letter Y, what do you do to make it plural? Carla.
You change the Y to an I and add ES.
Good. Change the Y to letter I and add ES. So a noun that ends with a consonant, remember those are letters other than vowels. So that's A, B, C, D, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Z. If it ends with one of those letters, then Y, change the Y to an I and add ES. Victoria, give me an example of a noun that follows that rule.
Babies.
Baby, B-A-B-Y. We have the consonant B followed by a Y. Becomes what, Victoria? Babies. We change the Y to an I and add ES. Now one more pretty common rule. Nouns that end with a vowel and Y. That means A-E-I-O-U followed by a Y. What do we do? What is the rule? Aaron?
You just add S.
Just add S. Don't change anything. Just add the letter S. The Y does not become an I. The Y stays as it is, and you add an S. Aaron, can you give me an example?
Stray.
Stray, as in animals that do not have a home. Stray, the animal shelter has a lot of dogs that are stray, becomes strays. We keep the Y as it is, and we add S. Okay, I'll give you a minute to write that because I'm going to erase. These are the regular rules. We know that these are rules that happen a lot. Let's talk about what we see with irregular plural nouns. Well, first, nouns that end with the letter F or the letters F-E. What happens to nouns that end with the letter F or the letters F-E? This is one of those two-part answers. Kingston, what do we do first? What do we have to do first if our noun ends with F or F-E?
Replace the F or the F-E with a V.
Change F change F to the letter V. And now that's not the end. This is a two-step plural. What do we do next?
Then we add
Think about it.
ES. We add ES.
And add ES. So nouns that end with F or F-E, we change the F to a V, and then we add ES. Give me an example of this. Carla.
Life.
Life. Oops, sorry, I did the wrong thing. It's supposed to be a bullet point. Life, L-I-F-E, becomes what, Carla?
Lives.
Not lives. Michaela? Lives. L-I, we change the F to a V and we add E-S. Now, yes, Carla, this does look like lives, but that's the verb. Live is the verb. Life and lives is the noun. So if you say lives, you're saying she lives down the street. That's a verb. If you're saying lives, you're saying a cat has 9 lives. We wouldn't say a cat has 9 lives, and we wouldn't say she lives down the street. So you have to make sure that you're using the word, you're saying the word correctly. Okay, there's one that we see a little more often that kind of has a rule. What about nouns that end with the letter O? What happens to nouns that end with the letter O? What happens to nouns that end with the letter O? Smith?
You just add ES.
Add the letters ES. Now I see some of you going like, what is it? What is it? What is it? Did I say you were not allowed to go back in your notes? Helen?
No.
No. So what does that mean? If you're like, what is it? What is it? What is it? What should you do? Smith?
Look back in your notes.
Look back. You should just be getting to the point where you don't have to look back. I never said you weren't allowed to. You just should be getting to where you maybe don't have to anymore. Okay, give me an example of a noun that ends with O. Zadie. Colin, can you help her out?
0.
0. How do we make it plural, Zadie? Do we change anything?
No.
No. What do we do?
Add ES.
So it becomes zeros. The reason for that is when you end with an O, if you have O and then a consonant, you usually say it as with no E at the end, you usually say it as a short O. This E tells us this needs to be a long O sound. So it needs to be zeros, not zeros. Now sometimes you will see people, like your math book doesn't put the E. But are math book writers necessarily super concerned with grammar? No. They're pretty concerned with it because they want to make sure they're writing correctly, but sometimes they do make grammatical mistakes. Okay. Some plural nouns change. Hold on. Did I tell you guys this year? Some plural nouns change their vowel sound. So that means we don't add S, we don't add ES, their whole vowel sound changes. Give me an example of a plural noun where the whole vowel sound changes. Ethan. So tell me the singular noun where the plural noun changes the vowel sound. Where do you have examples of this that you could use if you cannot remember them? So give me an example. Look at the examples that you have. What? Not potato. That follows this rule. Who can help him out? Victoria.
Shrimp.
Is that a word where it changes its vowel sound? Does it change that I sound, that if, to a different sound? No. Zadie.
Goose turns into geese.
Goose. We have that OO, which makes the oo sound. When we make goose plural, we don't add S, we don't say gooses. We change that oo sound to an E sound to get geese. Some plural nouns change completely. We don't know why they change that way, they just do. That's how it works. Give me an example of a plural noun that changes completely. Zari. Erin, can you help her out?
Ox becomes oxen.
Ox becomes oxen. We also have person that becomes people. Man that becomes men. Child that becomes children. Woman that becomes women. Ethan, not right now, please. Please come back. Thank you. And then our last thing that we see with irregular plural nouns. Some plural nouns don't change at all. Nothing. Nothing happens to them. They stay exactly the same. Like what? Kingston? Give me an example of a plural noun that does not change at all. Why are you going back so fast? This is what we talked about on Monday. We talked about irregular plural nouns on Monday. So would it be like pages and pages back? Carla, help him out. What is an example of a plural noun that doesn't change at all?
Fish.
Fish. Whether we're talking about one fish or we're making it plural and talking about 10 of them, it is still the word fish. We do not add es to make it fishes. It is just fish. There is one fish in the bowl. There are 20 fish in the aquarium. Doesn't matter. Okay. Take a chance to finish writing that. Please read the first bullet point, Mason, loud and slow. So almost like you're yelling so that we can all hear you with the mask on and the camera and the computer can pick up your voice so that the girls at home can hear and the video can hear.
Some nouns have special plural forms.
Good. So some nouns have special plural forms. Those are those words we talked about on Monday, those irregular plural nouns. Michaela, read the next bullet point, loud and slow.
A few nouns have the same singular and plural forms.
A few nouns have the same singular and plural forms. That means they don't change. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to read each sentence. There are two words in parentheses. One is the correct way to write the plural noun. One is the incorrect. When I call you, you need to tell me which one is correct. Is it the first option or the second option? So number one, make sure that you're looking at your paper so you can see it exactly. Carla, do you have your guided practice out? Okay, put it on your desk, please. Number one, Chinese factories produce lots of paper. Aaron, is the first option that ends with ES correct? Or is the second option that changed a letter to I and added ES correct? The second option. So we are going to draw a line under the correct form because we know, Aaron, if the noun ends with a consonant like R followed by Y, what do we do? We change Y to I and add ES. Very good. Number 2, wheelbarrows invented in China were compared to wooden, is it wooden oxes or wooden oxen? Victoria? Wooden oxen. So we're going to underline oxen. Now, is there any rule we can follow to figure that out? Is there? No. It just says, we just have to memorize it. Because yes, some words do change completely. Is there a rule that says this type of word changes completely? No. So we just have to memorize. We have to memorize that the plural of ox is oxen. Because there is no rule that tells us which nouns completely change. There is a noun that tells us when to, there is a rule that tells us when to add ES, but there's not a rule that tells us when to completely change the word. Number 3, Chinese inventors experimented with magnetism by placing iron, is it fish or fishes? Zari?
Fish.
Fish. Now, is there any rule that tells us that it's fish, not fishes?
No. All it does is doesn't change at all.
And is there any rule that says this type of word does not change at all, Zari?
No.
No. So again, that's just something you have to memorize. Make sure that you're following along. Number 4, the first kites floated through the air like leaves or leaves? Mason? Leaves. Because it follows the rule that says words that end in F, what happens? If a noun ends in F, what do we have to do? You can look at your notes. Huh?
Put a V.
Do we just put a V at the end? What do we have to do?
V and ES.
Do we leave the F? So we have leaf. What do we do? Look at your notes. If it ends with F, do we keep?
You get rid of the F and put V and ES.
Very good. You get rid of the F, change it to V, add ES. Okay, number 5. I wonder who first realized it's a good idea to brush your tooth or teeth. Helen?
Teeth.
Teeth. That word changes the vowel sound. Is there any rule that says these types of words need the vowel sound changed?
Yes.
Is there? Is there a rule that says this, if a noun does this, change the vowel sound?
No.
No, it just says some of them change the vowel sound. So what do we have to do to learn which ones change the vowel sound? Who can help her out? What do we have to do since there's no rule that says if the word ends with this, change the vowel sound? What do we have to do? Kingston. Just memorize them. Okay, number 6. Magicians place pieces of lodestone into the bellies or bellies of wooden turtles. Zadie. Is it the first option or the second option?
The second option.
The second option, because it follows which rule?
Drop the Y and add I.
Well, what rule tells us to do that? If it ends with what?
If it ends with Y.
With it ends with Y? Well, why doesn't that work with boy? Why does boy not become B-O-I-E-S? It ends with Y. Erin, can you help her out?
If it has a consonant.
Consonant.
If it has a consonant before the Y,
we can't just say it ends with Y, otherwise we're going to end up with boy spelled B-O-I-E-S. If it ends with a consonant like L, then Y, we change the Y to an I and add ES. If it ends with a vowel like A-E-I-O-U, we do not change the Y, we just add S. Number 7, a member of the Chinese court invented a machine to predict earthquakes or earthquacks. Ethan, is it the first option, earthquakes, or the second option, earthquacks? Earthquakes. Because did we have any rule or special case where we took off an E? Did that ever happen? Did we ever take off an E in any of these plural nouns? Class?
No.
No. So that was just being silly. Number 8, I didn't know the Chinese had made compasses or compasses. Carla,
Compass.
is it the first option, compasses, or the second option, compasses?
Compasses.
The second option, compasses. Because, again, is there any rule or special case that says add an I, then ES? No. There's a rule that says change a Y to an I and add ES, but we never add an I, ever. Number 9, I think of inventors as heroes or heros. Kingston. Heroes, because that follows what rule? Hero follows what rule? Nouns that end in I? Nouns that end in O, add ES. Okay, number 10. What different species or species of animals come from China? Smith, is it the first option, species is, or the second option, species?
Species.
Species. Good, because do we ever add ES do we ever add SES to any word?
No.
No, we would never add SES to any word. Okay, number 11. These inventions have changed many people's, is it lives or lives? Michaela. What? Lives. Because that follows what rule? Life follows which rule? What V? Tell me the rule. What do you mean V? Tell me the rule. What happens? Tell me the whole rule. That just tells me a statement. Tell me the whole rule. Live words, nouns that end with F or FE, what happens to them?
Changes F to V.
That's it?
Life to life.
Well, if I did that, and I had the word leaf, you said, so I have leaf. You told me change the F to a V, so that would be it. Is that the whole rule? No, there's more to it. Did you write what comes next? After you change the F to V, after you change the F to a V, what do you do next? Colin?
You add ES.
Add ES. So if you do not have that, Michaela, you need to write that right now. After you change the F to a V, you need to add ES. That's not what I had written on the board. I included add ES. So you need to make sure that you're copying it exactly. Otherwise, when you're studying for a quiz, you may forget about that add ES, and then you would change leaf to leave, and it would not be correct. So it is the word lives. Number 12, tomatoes, or is it tomatoes, come with the meal. Ethan. Tomatoes. O-E-S, because it follows the rule. If a noun ends with O, add E-S. Okay, so that's it for the guided practice. Let's look at the front of the independent practice. Plural nouns that don't follow the rules, and it has page 1 down at the bottom. The directions say sometimes you don't add S or ES to a noun to make it plural. Read each sentence. Figure out the plural of the word in parentheses and write it on the line. If you need help, look up the word in the dictionary, or you have this and your notes where you can look it up. So what you're going to do, there's a word in parentheses at the end. Does everybody see the words in parentheses at the end of the sentences? That's the singular form. You have to write the plural form. Now, some of these you're going to know. Like, you just know that tooth is not tooths, it's teeth. You may not have that on a list, but you know that. So you need to write the correct plural form of the word in parentheses on the line. Okay, turn to the back. You're doing the same thing, except that instead of being in parentheses, the word is underneath. Now the front only has irregular plurals. Does everybody understand? The front, the side with number 1 that says plural nouns that don't follow the rules. There are only irregular plurals on the front. However, on the back, you have both. You have regular plural nouns and irregular. So you have to make sure that you're either following a rule or you are using your words that you've memorized or have on your list to write the correct plural form. Everybody understand what to do? Okay, you have 20 minutes. When you finish, remember, does this go in the reading and religion tray?
No.
Colin?
No.
No. Where does it go?
In Writer's Workshop.
In the Writer's Workshop tray. Girls at home, that really doesn't affect you. You just put it somewhere where it can be scanned. But you probably know that by now, because I've said it so many times. The girls at home know where to put it, yet I still have kids at school putting it in the wrong place. They've never done it before at home. You've done it countless times. So please remember where it goes.